Here to address this for the first time directly is Roger Stone himself. Roger, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Karyn. It's great to have the opportunity to rebut the fake news because there's so much of it out there. In this case, the Daily Beast, which is, from my point of view, the lowest of the low when it comes to fake news, has cherry-picked and I think selectively released text messages that are incomplete, out of order, out of context, on different days to try to create a false narrative. Let's be very clear and get right to the point. I never lobbied the president or his administration or his lawyers for a pardon for Joel Greenberg. I never accepted a penny from Mr. Greenberg or anyone else who was seeking a presidential pardon. I'm aware of no actual evidence or proof that Congressman Matt Gaetz has done anything wrong. Like you, I've read the allegations, but where's the beef? I've seen no evidence that this is true. So this is typical of the fake news media smear. And unfortunately, we're at a point in our popular culture where Roger Stone's name is clickbait. And I think that's the case here.
Yeah, these fabricated narratives, this clickbait news with your name all over it seems to be a regular occurrence. And, it just seems like just last week, we were talking about the other story in your life where the DOJ has again targeted you in a way that just is unbelievable. There's some sort of civil suit going on and something about your taxes. And this is all a bunch of garbage as well.
Well, this is the weaponization of the Biden Justice Department for political purposes. Look, it is not a secret. It's been widely reported for a number of years that my wife and I had a tax debt from 2007 and 2008. And we diligently made payments for well over 3 years, with the payments escalating to pay off that debt. Now, however, they want to sue me for the interest and the penalties. In fact, my tax attorney was in negotiations with the IRS under the offer and compromise program to try to settle this matter. But the instant Joe Biden was elected, they cut off those discussions and they filed a lawsuit which is both flawed from a legal point of view and factually incorrect. So you have to wonder, is this just harassment? I mean, first they tried to destroy me in the Russian collusion hoax, and I was subjected to a Soviet-style show trial in Washington, D.C., replete with a biased judge, a crooked jury forewoman, and extraordinary prosecutorial misconduct over fabricated crimes. And then on November 3rd, 2020, just weeks ago, the Justice Department was forced by court order to release the last remaining unredacted sections of the Mueller report, in which they admitted, although sugar-coated, they had no evidence whatsoever of Russian collusion or coordination by WikiLeaks or Julian Assange or any knowledge of John Podesta's extraordinarily damaging emails. Of course, CNN and MSNBC and the New York Times, the people who called me a traitor and a Russian spy in headline-sized type, they never covered that story. This tax action is harassment. What I'd like to know is, why am I being treated differently than Hunter Biden? I mean, Hunter Biden very clearly took in millions of dollars in Ukrainian business deals, in shady Chinese business deals. There is no question that there's an open IRS investigation, but when will they be suing him for the taxes that he owes? It's just another example of our two-tiered justice system. They charged me with lying to Congress. Rod Rosenstein lied to Congress when he said he didn't approve the investigation into Roger Stone, except for he did on October 17th, 2017. You can see his signature, 2018, pardon me. So why hasn't he been charged with lying to Congress? There are two standards. One standard for President Trump's supporters and Republicans, the other standard for the elites and the globalists in our society.
Yeah, and it seems like they're using that double standard against Matt Gaetz in every way, shape, and form. And since the beginning of this story, he really doesn't seem to get a fair shake at all. It seems like no matter what, they just keep going with this narrative and, twisting the evidence, as you say they're doing, in order to get this false narrative out about him. And this was a guy who was a shining star in the Republican Party. Is that why they're taking shots at him?
Yeah, this is payback. Look, Matt Gaetz is a person of enormous courage who has not been afraid to take on Adam Schiff and Jerry Nadler and the Chinese spy, Eric Swalwell. And therefore they despise him because he stood up for the America First president. And he hasn't been shy about it. But now he's in the worst possible position because he's fighting a rumor. He's fighting a charge. He hasn't been charged with anything. I've seen no evidence and no proof whatsoever that Matt Gaetz has done anything wrong. All I have seen is a guy who has been charged with crimes and, desperate to get out of punishment, is making up stories about me, about Matt Gaetz. Who else is he trying to throw over the side? Matt Gaetz has done nothing wrong that I'm aware of, and I think he's being very unfairly treated.
Yeah, it certainly seems that way, and it seems like you're unfairly treated every time your name is in a headline, whether it's the tax story or the Mueller investigation or now this. It seems like you are just synonymous with clickbait, and they know if they put Roger Stone's name in there, then all of a sudden they're going to get people to click through to whatever salacious story of the day they want to tell. It's got to be a difficult place for you to be in, but I admire your strength. Any advice for Matt as he's going through this?
Well, look, Matt Gaetz is a brilliant guy, and he's a great political strategist in his own right, but he's also a fighter. He's not going to throw in the towel. I think he deserves the benefit of the doubt to begin with, because I still haven't seen any actual proof that he did anything wrong. All you have is the ravings of a guy who's in prison and wants to get out. So in my own case, I intend to keep fighting. Folks who want to help me can go to stonedefensefund.com. stonedefensefund.com. Now I've got to go out and hire a first-rate tax attorney. My tax attorney and my accountant, both excellent, both of whom oversaw all of the taxes and accounting that involve this complaint, tell me that the complaint is fatally flawed on a factual basis, but they're not trial attorneys. So I've got to go out again to defend myself. Now, you know the truth here. I've lost everything. I lost my home. I lost my savings. I lost my car. I lost my ability for almost 18 months to make a living. The FBI swooped into my studio in Oakland Park and destroyed my desktop, 2 laptops, digital cameras, the microphones. I've had a hard time getting back on my feet, but I won't quit, and I will win this action because it's harassment. I was glad to see that Joe Biden has given the IRS an additional $80 million to go after rich people, and I suggest they start with Hunter Biden. That's where I'd start.
Yeah, and that brings up the whole Giuliani raid, which I know you definitely want to weigh in on, because the fact that they went and raided his apartment and he stood there and said, hey, I have a copy of Hunter Biden's laptop, and they completely ignored it and didn't want anything to do with it. That's highly unusual in itself, is it not?
It shows that the FBI and the Justice Department have been completely politicized. They're no longer, unbiased arbiters of justice. They're being used as a political weapon. Rudy Giuliani is a great man, perhaps the greatest mayor of New York of all time. He took a city that was in deep decline and he turned it around and made it a model city, bringing down crime, bringing down taxes, bringing up opportunity and jobs. He's been a former U.S. attorney, former associate attorney general. He's a man of enormous integrity. His crime is investigating the crimes of the Bidens. That's his crime. This is a travesty. And as I understand it, he had offered to turn over all of his electronic devices and his records to the DOJ, and they took a pass on that so they could conduct a 6 a.m. in the morning raid. Exactly what they did to me when 29 jackbooted FBI agents carrying M4 assault rifles surrounded my house. This is the Biden Justice Department. Even under President Donald Trump, it was the Obama Justice Department. It is an outrage what they're doing to Mayor Giuliani. My family and I, we are praying for him because he's a good man and he's being unfairly harassed.
Yeah, and the harassment that you faced and that raid was unreal. And the first thing I thought about when I saw this raid on Giuliani was you and how it's happening again. How can we be in this moment? You think we're going to see any major changes, or you think it's all downhill from here?
Well, in the meantime, we have former Secretary of State John Kerry actively involved in both sedition and treason. You can't conduct your own foreign policy. It's in violation of the Logan Act. Why has he not been arrested? More importantly, why hasn't every Republican member of Congress co-signed a letter demanding that he be investigated and prosecuted instead of a small handful? So I really have to wonder about the Republican Party, whether anybody there has a backbone. It is disgraceful. John Kerry is guilty of very serious crimes, yet it appears that there will be no punishment.
That's for sure, Roger. Well, it's been great having you. We'll see how this unfolds. Thanks for
Karyn,
joining me.
Karyn, thanks for having me and giving me an opportunity to lay the truth out there for the people.
Thanks so much.